Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great day so far. My name is JurassicKM and welcome to another episode of Take 2. This is probably going to be a longer video, not only given the specimen we're painting, but also as I do have some things to say for the intro. So if you wish to dive headfirst into the repainting process, please jump ahead to the timestamp that is on your screen now. Today marks the 25th anniversary of Jurassic Park III, so it only made sense to take another run at the iconic and infamous Spinosaurus aegypticus. And what better model to paint than the super colossal Spinosaurus? This is a significant milestone anniversary after all. When I first attempted the Jurassic Park III Spinosaurus in June of 2025, I tried eyeballing it and creating a new formula from scratch. While I admittedly didn't hate the result, there was clearly room for improvement, and I knew that I'd be revisiting him eventually. And yes, the Jurassic Park III Spinosaurus is apparently male. Fast forward to February of 2026 when Marco Makes posted a video where he collaborated with WrappedXO, going into modifying and repainting the Hammond Collection Spinosaurus into the most screen-accurate model they can create. Needless to say, I watched their collaboration multiple times, taking notes and studying the colors and techniques used. I also felt a great deal of vindication when WrappedXO says that he considers the Jurassic Park III Spinosaurus the most difficult design to replicate, to which I agree 100%. Link to the specific video and their respective socials are in the description below, so please go check it out and give them a follow after this video if you haven't already. Now, while I am obviously trying to achieve a similar result, I do want it stated just for the record that I'm also trying not to directly copy and paste WrappedXO's work. That is disrespectful to him as an artist and content creator, just as it is disrespectful to you as a viewer. I did a practice run on the Extreme Chomp and Spinosaurus sculpt that I painted before, as I figured I should probably test it on the little guy first before tackling the super colossal. So the shots featured in this video will be the last time that you will see that original attempted color scheme. I am satisfied with how the Redux looks overall, but with that said, I noticed there were a few things that could be tweaked going into the super colossal, so the two reveals at the end will not look exactly the same. Painting a super colossal figure is, as to be expected, a big job, so what I like to do is break them down into sections. This helps with keeping the colors consistent, the project manageable, and the remnants of my sanity somewhat in check. I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible, so I will not be repeating color formulas if I can help it. If you are painting along, either keep a notepad handy or screenshot those formulas as they are presented. I like to start with the mouth so that once it's done, I can just close it and not have to worry about getting exterior paint on the teeth or anything stupid like that. Or at least that's the usual plan, but this one's mouth won't close all the way. Don't mind how my Spinosaurus looks with its mouth open. The lower jaw hasn't budged since I bought it, and I don't want to force it and end up breaking the mandible. These things had a very limited run here in Canada, so I can't just run out and buy another. I think that's enough intro talk. We have an extremely complicated design to apply to a very large figure, so let's get to work. To start, we prime our Spinosaurus and give it at least 2 coats of a 2-to-1 mix of slate for the base coat, which is the footage that you saw at the beginning of the video. Full disclosure, if you have a primer that is already a dark gray, use that. Trust me, it'll save you a lot of time and wrist cramps. To start the interior of the mouth, we're going to do a 2-to-1 mix of orange, natural buff, and natural beige. Then we're going to mix that 2-to-1 with water and paint the inside of the mouth. Now, because of the dark base coat, we are going to have to do 2 coats of this. Once that dries, we're going to do a 3-to-1 mix of blush pink, African violet, and cherry blossom pink, and we're going to apply that to the tongue on the back of the throat, well, assuming your Spinosaurus has one, as well as the roof of the mouth. While we're waiting for that color to dry, we're going to take some antique white straight out of the cap for the teeth. Once the antique white dries, we're going to do a 1-to-15 wash of burnt umber on the teeth just to give them that grimy, worn down look. Once that wash has dried, we are going to do a 1-to-20 wash of black on the mouth interior except for the teeth. Once that wash dries, we are going to clear coat the mouth interior, and then once that dries, we add our clear nail polish on the entire mouth interior and the teeth. So with the mouth out of the way and closed as much as we can, we're going to start on the rest of the head. We're going to do a 3-to-1 to 1 to 1 mix of tan, slate, cafe mocha, and country maple. We're going to mix this 2-to-1 with water, and we're going to apply it to the first 2/3 of the lower jaw. Now, if some of the gray base coat is still showing through a little, don't worry about it. It's not an issue. If anything, that will actually help us. Once that first color is dry, we're going to do a 3-to-1 to 1 to 1 of country maple, cafe mocha, slate, and tan. And then we're going to dry brush this on the previous color. We are going to follow up with more dry brushing, mixing a 5-to-1 to 1 to 1 of tan, slate, cafe mocha, and country maple, and dry brush it on the previous color. We have one more step of dry brushing to do before we proceed, and that is going to be a 3-to-1 to 1 to 1 mix of slate, tan, cafe mocha, and country maple. Once all of that dry brushing is done, we're going to do a 3-to-1 to 1 mix of white, Amish gray, and spa blue. Mix that 1-to-1 with water for the underbelly. And on the head, we're doing just enough of a V-neck design, basically where the throat connects into the mandible. Once that dries, we're going to do a 5-to-1 to 1 mix of white, Amish gray, and spa blue. Now, we dry brush this color on top of the underbelly, but make sure that you dry brush the edges of the underbelly too. Next up, we do a 3-to-1 to 1 mix of deep red, orange, and burnt umber. We mix that 2-to-1 with water, and we're going to paint the skull and the further third of the mandible. Now, because this is such a vibrant, rich color, this is going to require 2 coats. Once our second coat is dry, we're going to take some deep red and we're going to dry brush it both on the skull and on the lower third of the mandible. Now we're going to mix a 1-to-1 of orange and golden brown, and we are going to dry brush the sides of the skull, not the top, and we're going to dry brush the entire mandible. For the white patterns on the head, we're going to do a 7-to-1 to 1 mix of white, Amish gray, and spa blue. Then we're going to dilute this mix 2-to-1 with water. Now remember to use your reference pictures for this one because the patterns on the head are asymmetrical. Once the white patterns dry, we're going to mix 3-to-1 of raw umber and black, and using a very fine tip brush, we're going to sporadically outline the white patterns on the head, and we're going to use this color for speckling too, just to make the details and realism pop with this one. We're going to go back to our 1-to-1 of orange and golden brown, and you see these little crests on the top of the head? We are going to dry brush this color on the top of the white patterns, specifically on these crests. Now we're going to do a 1-to-1 to 1 of black, African violet, and navy blue. You want to mix this concoction 3-to-1 with water, and we're going to paint in the eye socket. Once that previous color has dried, we're going to dry brush some African violets in the eye socket just to really make those pop out. Next, we're going to take some slate straight out of the cap for speckling on the first 2/3 of the mandible, but not on the white patterns though. We're then going to repeat this speckling step with raw umber. Once the speckling is done and all of the paint is dried, we're going to take our 1-to-20 of black wash and we are going to apply it to the entire head. Then we're going to do a 1-to-1 mix of leaf green and citrus green for the eyeballs. Then using a very fine tipped brush, we are going to use early spring green for the iris. And then once again, using a very fine tip brush, we are going to use black for the slit cat's eye pupils and the nostrils. Once all of the paint is dried, we're going to clear coat the head of the Spinosaurus, and then we're going to add nail polish for the eyes and nostrils. That's just the head, folks. Now, I know that usually when I repaint these super colossals, the design is not this complicated, but I just want you to know how much time and effort goes into repainting one of these super colossals, and I hope that you can appreciate that. Now, with the head out of the way, it's time to move on to the neck. Now, I will tell you right now, a lot of these steps are also applicable to the torso, arms, legs, and tail. Remember those first few steps we applied to the mandible? That's the overbelly color for the rest of the body. So let's get that overbelly painted. Base color, check. 3 layers of dry brushing, check. Once that's done, let's jump into the new steps. We're going to do a 1 to 15 wash of early spring green along the top half of the overbelly. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to put this wash in between where the white stripe on the body and the red along the spine will be. Once that early spring green dries, we're going to do a 1 to 15 wash of orange on top of that. Then once that orange dries, we're going to do a 1 to 15 wash of navy blue. Next, we do the underbelly colors. Again, remember that there is a primary underbelly color, then the second that you dry brush on top of it and around the edges of the underbelly. Using the same color of red that we did on the head, apply this to the back of the neck, starting with a thin line at the base of the neck, then expanding out the closer that you get to the back of the skull. Once that's done, we're going to jump into some new steps. Let's make a mix of 3 to 1 orange and yellow. Then we're going to mix that 2 to 1 with water, and we're going to paint the scales at the back of the skull and along the spine. We're going to do a 3 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 of slate, tan, country maple, cafe mocha, and black. And then we're going to dry brush where that white stripe pattern is going to go. Once the dry brushing is done, we're going to do a 7 to 1 to 1 mix of white, Amish gray, and spa blue. We mix this 4 to 1 with water, and then we're going to apply the white stripe down the side. Now we're going to take that same color mix of 7 to 1 to 1 of white, Amish gray, and spa blue, only this time we're going to dilute it 2 to 1 with water, and we're going to paint the jagged stripes that leak away from the main stripe. If you can, make sure that you use thin brushes to paint some of the stripes within the scales of the sculpt. Now that the striping is out of the way, we're going to hit the overbelly with our slate and raw umber speckling, then the 1 to 20 black wash, and then we're going to add some clear coat once everything dries. No nail polish is needed here, so we're going to move on to the next step, the sail. Start by applying 2 coats of the red that we used on the skull and neck, outlining the edge of the sail. Once that dries, we're going to use the first underbelly color to fill in the rest of the sail. Once that dries, we're going to do a 2 to 1 mix of daffodil yellow for the more gradient color above the underbelly color. Now, because this is yellow, this will definitely need 2 coats because you always have to dual coat with yellow. For this next step, we're going to do a 3 to 1 mix of orange and bright yellow. Mix this 1 to 2 with water, and we're going to connect the pale yellow to the red at the top. For the next step, we are going to mix a 6 to 1 to 1 of coastal blue, Amish gray, and sage mint. We want to dilute this 3 to 1 with water, and we're going to paint those complicated patterns on the sail. And much like the patterns on the head, the sail patterns are asymmetrical, which I did not know until I watched that video. Using a 3 to 1 mix of navy blue and black, we are going to outline the patterns on the sail. Now we're going to mix up a 3 to 1 of orange and yellow, and we're going to dry brush within the red along the sides of the sail. And then once again, we're going to hit the sail with our 1 to 20 black wash, and then we'll clear coat it once the wash dries. This is another section of the body that does not need nail polish, so it's time to move on. Up next is the torso. So you want to put down the overbelly color, the dry brushing, then the washes that'll go between the white line and the sail. Make sure that these go out to where the tail connects into the body, as that will be important later. Now apply the first step of the underbelly colors, but on the torso, what we want to do is we're going to make sure that this underbelly color goes up around the belly in front of the legs. Once we do, and it dries obviously, we do the second underbelly color. Then we dry brush the dark color that maps out where the white stripes will be applied. Then we're going to apply said white stripes, connecting it to the underbelly color we brought up around the belly. We paint the stripes coming out of the main stripe, connecting them into the sail, add the slate and raw umber speckling throughout, especially on that underbelly color in front of the leg. For the space in between the front of the sail and the back of the neck, we are going to dry brush that 3:1 orange yellow just to connect the two spots. And we want to dry brush it just enough that it's there, but it's not super noticeable. And then on the back of the sail connecting to the base of the tail, we're just going to dry brush some deep red. Hit it with the black wash and then clear coat. Once again, no nail polish required for the torso, so on to the next part. So we're going to cover the arms next. These shouldn't take long, comparatively speaking. All right, apply the overbelly color, then the dry brushing. Apply the underbelly colors on the armpits, for lack of a better term. Then we're going to take that dark color that outlines where the white stripe goes down the body, and we're going to dry brush this on the lower half of the forearms. Let's follow up with the slate and raw umber speckling throughout before we move on to a new step. For this new step, we're going to do a 3:2:1 mix of natural beige, orange, and burnt umber, and we are going to dry brush the palms of the Spinosaurus. While we wait for those to dry, we're going to take some black paint straight out of the cap, and we're going to paint the claws. Once the black dries, we are going to dry brush some storm cloud gray onto the claws just to make the details pop out more. Once all that dries, you know the drill. 1:20 black wash everywhere. Then we're going to apply the clear coat. And then once everything dries, we put nail polish on the claws. Next up are the legs. Unsurprisingly, there's a lot of repeat steps here. Overbelly color? Check. 3 layers of dry brushing? Check. When applying the underbelly color on the inner thigh, just make sure that we do some dry brushing of this onto the back of the calves as well. That will be important later. Remember that dark color we applied on the lower half of the forearms? We're going to dry brush that on the front and back of the legs, plus on the feet and ankles. Next, we're going to dry brush that same color we did on the palms onto the soles of the feet. Once that's done, we're going to get that first white pattern down along the front of the legs, stopping just below the knee. Then we'll take that thinned down version and apply the stripes reaching across the Spinosaurus's leg. Let's get our slate and raw umber speckling done on the overbelly colors. Then we're going to paint the claws black, dry brush the gray on the claws, and then hit the legs with that black wash. Once all that dries, we clear coat the legs and then nail polish on the claws. Still with me, folks? Awesome. We are on the final section of the super colossal Spinosaurus, the tail. The first few steps are business as usual as we apply the overbelly color along with the necessary dry brushing. Before we do the early spring green and orange and navy blue washes that will continue from the torso out onto the tail, let's take care of the underbelly colors first. Trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. Apply the first underbelly color, then dry brush the second on top of it and around and along the edges. However, this time we're also going to apply the second underbelly color on the top of the further half of the tail, creating this shape that looks like the overbelly pattern curves down and disappears into the underbelly. It should look something like this. Once all this paint is dry, now let's apply those 3 washes on all of the overbelly color on the tail. If some of the washes bleed into the underbelly colors a little, don't sweat it. It'll just add character. So now we're going to do a 3:1 mix of African violet and deep red. We're going to mix this 2:1 with water, and we're going to apply it on the tip of the tail as well as the spine. Then we're going to take that same 3:1 mix of African violet and deep red, only this time we're going to mix it 1:2 with water, and we're going to spread this out onto the underbelly pattern on the tail. Then once that is done, we're going to dry brush some deep red along the spines on the tail. Hey, remember that orange-yellow mix we did starting at the back of the head and then dry brushed on the side of the sail? Yep, let's bust that sucker out again and dry brush very faintly on the deep red we just dry brushed on the spine. the purpley color on the end of the tail, and even some of the underbelly color. Next, we're going to do a 3 to 2 to 2 to 1 of African violet, deep red, orange, and navy blue. We're going to mix this 1 to 2 with water, and we're going to add the stripes at the tip of the tail, because the Spinosaurus does have stripes on the tip of its tail. Then we're going to take that same color combination, only this time we're going to mix it 1 to 3 with water, and we're going to add the spots on the underbelly pattern. Anyone want to guess what we do next? If your brains are fried by this point, I get it. We're going to do our slate and raw umber speckling on the overbelly color, and maybe even a little along the edges of the underbelly colors too. Why not? Then we're going to hit the tail with our 1 to 20 of black wash, add some clear coat when it dries, and then we are done the Spinosaurus. Correction, we're almost done with the Spinosaurus. Looking at it again, I can see a couple of spots that for some reason did not come out as dark as they needed to, which is strange because I used the same 120 black wash throughout the entire figure, but whatever. So we are going to just take those lighter spots. We're going to add a 1 to 40 wash of black, and we're just going to try and match those and clear coat them, and then we'll do the final reveal. This diorama is my first attempt at a Spinosaurus, using Jurassic Junkie's video as a tutorial reference, the link for which will be in the description below. These pictures show my second attempt, trying to eyeball it and hoping for the best. This is my third attempt, redoing the Extreme Chompin' one following Marco Makes' and RaptXO's video. This is my fourth, and for the moment, final attempt of the Jurassic Park III Spinosaurus, tweaking a couple of steps. What do you think? I'm pretty stoked with how this one turned out, but with all due respect to our Isla Sorna variant, I do not want to do this pattern again unless I'm being commissioned. This was a lot, folks. I did not keep track of how long this took to complete, and even if I did, I'd probably be quoting Eric Kirby and just telling you, you don't want to know. I'm going to try and tackle as many more Jurassic Park 3 designs as I can this year, but I think the next one is going to have to be something much simpler, like the Parasaurolophus or something. If the weather cooperates, I'm going to get some glamour shots of this guy outside and paired with the super colossal Buck Rex that I painted last year. And with all that out of the way, I do just want to take a moment and say happy 25th anniversary to Jurassic Park 3. I hope the fans of that movie are celebrating it with a watch party and having a good time. Folks, if you've made it this far into the video, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch it. If you like what you see, be sure to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so that you don't miss any new uploads, and share this video around. And until next time, this is JurassicKM signing off.